Check 1 2, check 1 2. Right. How's everybody doing? Welcome. And here we are. We're live. Again, apologies for a delayed start. Another crazy busy day. How's everybody doing? Welcome. If it's your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome. Just getting things situated. I just had a busy time getting getting some groceries, actually, and a bunch of other stuff. I haven't been to Costco in years, and then a friend of mine was like, "I'm making a Costco run. Do you want to go?" I was like, "Sure." Little did I know what I was getting myself into, and tons of food and a blender later. Here I am. Oh my god. Anyway, sorry, I'm just getting things situated off screen. One more minute. Ryan, it's going, man. It's been man, what a week. What a hectic week. And stressful and busy and just the joys of dealing with some nasty clients. So, yeah. Could be better, could be worse, you know. Got to look at things and see if you can turn lemons into lemonade. So I'm gonna be launching my first NFT, actually a set of NFTs, soon, and one of them is gonna be centered around a raptor, and these will be all three. Well, yeah, there's actually gonna be three initially to start, three NFTs. Two of them are sports related, and one will be dinosaur related. And they will each be a 3D print with also a digital card and some other cool little bells and whistles attached. So should be pretty awesome for anybody who would like to invest. Yeah. So I'll be posting more about that on my Instagram. So if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, please do. Let me turn down my volume. So for those who aren't following me on Instagram, if you would like to, that'd be awesome because I'm growing that and trying to keep it going. So for those interested, I'll be posting more of this work and more detailed work in progress stuff now that I'm working on my own stuff for a bit instead of clients. But I'm sure I'll be working on client stuff soon again. But so my IG, there you go. For those who may not know, give me a follow if you like. What else is in the chat? Can hear you fine, doing okay. Hey Neil, looking great. Thank you, thank you. Ryan's asking Trico. Yeah, Trico is not here actually. Unfortunately, I have the statue in my living room currently. Okay, Mr. Bagat has a question, urgent question. Made a likeness of Cain Vasquez, and yesterday had it reviewed by a Pixologic presenter, and he said not to use perspective, but you are also using perspective for likeness. Why is that? Okay, I can tell you. What else? He said model is good, but perspective is messing with my proportion. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I'm using perspective. Let me change this over here. So yeah, I'm using perspective because I know, or at least I have a good idea of what lens length, what millimeter length of lens they were using. And because I had a scan already of Keanu's face from I mean it's scan that's I'm using that a little loosely because it's a scan that was interpreted then and fixed up for the game Cyberpunk. So it's basically the Cyberpunk model, which I know because I saw the behind the scenes videos. They scanned his face in, and then they did what I did with, well, last week. For those who were watching, they did what I did last week with or something similar anyway, with something like ZWrap. So if you guys aren't familiar with ZWrap right here, it's definitely worth the money. It's only $100 for an indie license, and you can just it allows you to. A lot of people use it for specifically faces and heads and likenesses, taking scan data and applying it to a clean mesh, meaning it has edge loops that are around the mouth, the eyes, the nose, and all the right places, so that you can use the same head and or human figure for all your human likeness needs, so that you have one model that's a good like generic base human mesh, has all the edge loops in a good place, and then it conforms that face, shrink wraps it basically to the scan of the whatever person you're working with. So it could be, as long as you have a human body that is either male or female, if you even need the genitalia or the chest to really be a certain form. But usually it's about the face, so you could have just a general, shoulder cut off head, and that could match to like multiple actors, so you can use it even for male or female. So it's pretty awesome like that. So clearly they did something like that so that they would have, or they just manually retopoed his scan, one of the two. But still, it was like smoothed out a bit. So the scan is right here. See, so you can, so without his hair, and without the eyes, that's what the game model looks like. The game model resed up a bit, and you can see the triangulation just from here when I rotate it. So I bring it down to sub D. This is like game res, and you can see they still have a lot of density around the face so that he can have emotion and have enough polygons to show that in the game. But games have to keep things very light polygon wise, low count polys. So, but for film, we do stuff that's crazy high, and then we use maps like a game. And the game does about the same thing, but we have usually much more topology. Oh, wow, that's not good. We have much more topology to work with in a film, generally, than you do with, anything in a game, just because the engine can't handle it. So the reason why I'm using perspective, sorry to answer your question directly, is because I had the scan of his head, so I know that it's going to match very well. And then there's little adjustments and things I'm making to liken it to his younger self with this expression, with that angle of the head, and other things like that. So that's why I'm feeling comfortable and safe using perspective. And even if I wasn't using, if I didn't have a scan and I was just going off of photos, I would find it, like I said, a good front and side view photo profile. And if you have a 3/4 view as well, that's always good. It's at least those three. So front, 3/4, side. And if you have left and right, that's also good because everyone's face is asymmetrical. So you're going to have discrepancies between the left and right side of their face and head. Yeah, it's got a little effed up. So those discrepancies you want to, you want to make sure if you want a real accurate one-to-one representation of someone's likeness digitally, you want to make a really good digital double. You want to make sure that you have good examples and good shots of, again, front, 3/4 on both sides and sides. Even back, top, and lower below the chin too, if you have an option, if you have an ability to find those kind of images, or if you meet the person and take photos, ask them if you can take a front profile and all that. I actually met a couple. I met a voice actor, I met a DJ, and I met an actor. Well, both voice actors and actors that I want to do likenesses of, and I want to do a companion piece of. Wow, I don't want to give too much away, but do some pretty cool stuff with some actors and voice actors that I've met who I admire, and you guys will eventually see the pieces that I want to do of said famous voice actors and actors, and I'll make it pretty public when they're complete. But yeah, so anyway, that's why I'm using perspective, because I feel comfortable in approximating that they're using probably 100mm lens or longer. And that compresses the face nicely. But 100mm lens, I found like they say like the nifty 50 is like a close approximation to the human eye. But I think if you have enough distance between a person, I'd say even 100 something, 100 plus millimeter length lens gives you a nice realistic view of what someone's face looks like when you're seeing them in person. If you go into like lower than 50, the head starts to become, any angle of the face that's closest, whatever's closest to the lens starts to kind of warp out a little bit much. And the lower your millimeter of your length of the lens is, the more fisheye, the more bowl, spherical your face becomes. Of course, distance helps with that somewhat. Excuse me. But a comfortable distance, I mean, maybe even because the longer your lens, the more you have to be further away from your subject to have their head properly in the same frame proportionally. So if you have like a really wide lens, you can be really close to them and still see their whole head. But with a really long lens, so 100mm, you're gonna have to be further away so that you can still see their head takes up the same amount of space in the frame. So those are just basic camera tips, So if you want to estimate what kind of length of lens that someone was shot with, a good way to guess is to understand the basics of focal length, right? and how the face compresses or elongates or spherizes, the more, the wider the lenses that you're using. That's all just very basic photography knowledge. And it's stuff you can easily look up on YouTube. Or if you would like to have a private tutoring lesson, if you'd like to arrange that, that's something else I'm also starting. So if you guys want to train in ZBrush with me one-on-one, or if I have enough people asking and they want to, we could do a group class for an hour or two. And group classes, if I have enough people who say they want one, that would help bring everyone's price down. So, I'm still making a comfortable charge for everything, but it's, we'd have to distribute questions in time or, you guys have to tell me if there's a specific subject you'd like to focus on. And if it's enough people have the same common, denominator, common interest in what they want to learn, then it would help facilitate a group class. So DM me on Instagram if you'd like to jump in a group class, or if you'd like private tutoring. That's definitely an option now. So let me know. So I'm just trying to fix his ear here quickly, because it kind of shrunk a little bit. And if you guys hear anyone yelling outside, I'm sorry. My window is against the outer wall of my complex, and so sometimes people can be inconsiderate and not realize someone lives here. Morons. Ugh. Oh, oops, wrong head. Okay. All right. All right, so I want to do maybe will back face masking work here to prevent it from. Interesting. Why is it doing that? All right, let's just use the form soft and some transparency. Oh, people are annoying. Anyway, sorry, bunch of questions popping up here. Let me frame this up so you guys aren't staring at just an ear. Nope, don't want to load that. There we go. Donate solo and turn that off. Okay. Sorry, questions. This is ZBrush buddy who's asking what software you're using. This is ZBrush, hence the Pixologic channel. Hey, very cool. Thank you. Just friendly YouTube. Here, hope all's well with you, Mr. Daniel. Thank you. How much perspective do you put? How much perspective? Like I said, that's relative to what the focal length is you're estimating that they used. So I'm putting 100 right now. I'm using focal length. See right here, you have this little slider that I put down here. It says focal length, millimeters, right? So you want to use that, and if I'm not mistaken, that's in where is that? Because that's sort of a newish feature. I think here it is. Yeah. So you go into Draw, and then right here you got your camera, and you've got your general focal length here. You got 18, 24, 28, 35, 50, 85. Then you got focal length. And then you got field of view, crop factor. If you're using, like, if you've taken a photo yourself with a not full frame sensor, that'll have crop factor. So then you got to figure out what that crop factor is based upon your camera. And there's at least 2 or 3 variants. So take that in consideration. Yeah. So that's the basics there for cameras in ZBrush. Let's see what else you guys are saying. It's very cool and kind of scary. I just did a fan art of Trico a couple weeks ago. The game is such a masterpiece. Yeah, the game is a masterpiece. Ryan, that's awesome, man. If you can send me, put a link in the chat, or is it all, where? Tell me where to find it. I'd love to see it. If it's in ArtStation or wherever, let me know. So then, since I don't have a scan, how should I go with likeness? And yes, I have all angles you talked about. But each has different perspective and proportions. What should I do? See, that's a challenge too. You're gonna have to probably make a compromise because I mean, there's a certain point where you're gonna have to, unless you want to save multiple cameras, and then each camera would have a different, a different angle, and then also would have different focal length. That'll be a pain, but you could save, multiple cameras. Um, trying to remember. So like this is a way, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't messed with the new camera system, honestly. But you can store cameras. You can save current camera to list. So I guess like if I store a camera, so let's just say this is front. Call this front perspective 100 millimeters. Enter. Okay. So there's that. So, and I don't have any others saved, so I can't do that. Deletes all. This is rename selected camera, store camera. But see, I don't know if I can save these. I don't see any option to save these cameras. And I guess it would save if you save the project, I'm guessing. But the only other way I know to save cameras then is if you're in document, you come down here below the Z-app link properties, and then here you have custom 1, custom 2, and you can save those. And that's what I do. So you save those views, and then you can load those views back in. But yeah, there's not going to be an ideal situation if you have multiple photos from different angles, and each one has a different focal length. If the head looks a little different, that'll be a challenge. But you're just going to have to guess for each one and kind of make those adjustments accordingly. Out of curiosity, when you were using scans in the film industry, do you know if they came from cyberware scanners? They used to use a lot way back when. An aunt of mine actually works with a. Oh yeah, I remember. I think I remember you mentioning this before. I don't know. I mean, when I got the scans, I was never told what scanner they used typically, unless someone in house had one, and I only saw Arctech, and the Arctechs were like 40 grand or more. Some were 20,000, I think. You can get a decent one now, at least that's professional grade. I ordered one off a Kickstarter that was 200, and it's like, we'll see how it looks. I mean, the results that they showed are really good. And it feels like that technology has just been getting more affordable and more reduced in size and everything. So, I should also note, sorry, just a parenthetical statement that's relevant. If I get cut off on this stream, it's not because I just quit or my computer crash or anything. It's because they will cut off the power. I got a warning just today, this morning, from my landlord saying that SoCal Electric, Edison, the electric company, said that they're going to shut off our electricity somewhere between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Probably, with my luck, it'll be like right now. So just FYI, if I cut out between now and 4 p.m., you'll know why. Freaking California. Anyway, regardless, so what was I saying? So yeah, Arctech were the ones. I think it's Art Tech, or is it Arc Tech? I don't remember. Whatever, look it up. You'll know what I mean. They're really expensive scanners, but they're really good. And they use them for, even like archival scanning. So they'll scan like large fossils. They'll take stuff from dinosaurs or mastodons or whatever and just scan in the giant skulls and bones and all this kind of stuff. And that's, it goes 1-to-1 scale wise in the computer. It's awesome. It's great. But yeah, otherwise, scanner wise, I don't really. I mean, I know those are like the cream of the crop. So, studios that have a lot of money to burn or to invest in that kind of tool, if they do a lot of likenesses, like I would think somewhere like Digital Domain or Double Negative or ILM, of course. I would assume those kind of studios, and others like Weta, of course. Studios at that caliber would definitely. It would make sense that they would invest in a scanner to have there. I know ILM has a full body one they used for Harrison Ford, for the one I worked on, actually. When I worked on Harrison Ford's scan for the Star Wars toys, it was awesome, of course. It's Harrison Ford, it's Han Solo, but it was definitely a unique, I think, proprietary setup that they scanned with, and it was already kind of like smoothed out a bit, and it was already like cleaned up a bit before they even handed it off to me. And then I was to make all these other subtle adjustments to his face and take away wrinkles and tuck up his, perk his butt up, and like all kinds of, little things for the toy, and change things up a bunch. So they wanted to look in between young and old Han Solo. And so there's all this like editing to the face that was like fine, subtle things, which was cool. I mean, like those are the few cases where, because I'm a fan of him and his characters, that I love working on those human characters. Like I'm a huge fan of Keanu Reeves, all of his work, and just a lot of his philosophy and his lifestyle. I really respect and admire his attitude and his just positivity and kindness that he puts out there, and his humility. And Matrix is fucking awesome. Like the first movie is incredible. I mean, they're all fun, but I mean, they really aren't as well. The sequels aren't as well written, of course, as the first. But love the first film. Such an iconic, such an amazing film. One of those films that's a landmark to me. It's a watershed moment, right? It's like that moment is there's a pre and post era of the Matrix, just like Jurassic Park and Terminator 2 is kind of, they're sort of in the same 2 years of release, pre and post era of Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, for different reasons. But especially Jurassic Park because it was such a living, breathing, looking set of animals. So yeah. So anyway, sorry getting sidetracked, but yeah. So that's a scanner answer. I've been scanned a few times actually. It's a really neat process, and they get every tiny amount of detail from the scan. So yeah, it's incredible. I was scanned once by a unique setup that was at SIGGRAPH. It's a Computer Arts and Animation Festival that hasn't happened for a while now, and they have this box that was set up that had a bunch of cameras like here. It was like a L shape kind of, and they had some below the sides and inside. But it was just you look straight into this box and it just scanned you pretty quick. It was cool. It was very different. I don't know if they went anywhere with it though. People yelling is normal. Do I speak Spanish? Un poquito, pero yo entiendo más. So I understand more than I speak, basically. So if I hear someone speaking Spanish, or if I can read some and put it together, but I'm not fluent, unfortunately. Sorry, I know it's embarrassing. I didn't, apparently, according to my parents, I didn't want to learn when I was a child, when I was an infant. And I've told them time and time again, I was an infant. You should have just forced me to learn. I didn't have a mind. My mind was unformed. You should have just... I barely had a mind. You should have just forced me. Like, you force your kids to eat vegetables. They may not like it, but it's good for them. Kids need discipline. That's why they have parents. That's why we come from parents. Anyway, my parents are great, though. I love my parents. But yeah, I wish I was fluent. But I understand a lot. So, I mean, I understand enough where if someone's speaking, I can overhear, I can eavesdrop, and understand like every 3 words or something and, put it together. So, but my ability to speak is not the best, as you heard. But I can fake the accent pretty well because I've heard it all my whole life. But my parents are both fluent in multiple languages, but Spanish and English for sure. So yeah, sorry, I'm not a fluent native Spanish speaker. Like good old Anderson Silva may say. Further on the tangent, can ZBrush import the PLY files from such scanners? I don't believe so. No, unless that's a new edition. I don't believe so. It's on your ArtStation. Oh, the Trico. Okay, cool. I'll check it out, dude. Thanks. Asked because I have some head scans of myself and a couple of cousins taken by Cyberware Scanner. They all went down there and got a tour of the place. Cool. You're gonna have to find a way to convert those, I think, from a point cloud or whatever the general format is. Their proprietary format. You're gonna have to convert that to a triangulated mesh. No worries, man. Can you suggest a tutorial I can follow for the problem I'm having? I can't. I'm sorry. Like I said, if you wanted to jump in, if you want to do like a private lesson, I could help you with it. But I don't know of any tutorials that really tackle. I'm sure there's something out there. I'm sure if you YouTube it, you'll find some stuff. But that's an interesting subject. I should probably think about doing a class on that, just on that, and just see if I can sell that or something. Because I've had enough experience with it to know like some of the ins and outs. But I'm not going to claim to be the world expert or anything. I mean, I'm sure there are people I'm sure there's guys who probably work at Marvel for Disney who've done a hell of a lot more scans for film than I have for digidoubles. But I know I'm decent at it. I mean, I've done a bunch myself. So it's really not brain surgery either. It's really not that complicated in the end. You just have to find good enough photos, right? And if you have photos from too many angles and too many different focal lengths, you got to reduce that and compromise a little bit, and use, like, if one profile view is farther away and you're zoomed in, well, then that's a compressed face. So you want to go to a higher focal length for that. and maybe just find a happy middle ground. You know, if you've got one that was like taken from outside, far outside, whatever the ring, or I'm assuming he's an MMA fighter or something. Um, you know, you want to guesstimate that that's probably equal to like equivalent to like 120 or 200 millimeter lens. So the face will be very compressed, very close to orthographic, which is non-perspective, which is like computerized, where everything you see this and this point with no curvature to the face whatsoever. Um, yeah. So, sorry, I'm gonna get back to sculpting for those who are waiting. I'm sorry, you probably want to speed ahead in the video if you're watching this in the future. Um, last couple things. Perk up his butt. We're still talking about the same Disney. Yeah, well, this was ILM, and people telling me from ILM being like, do this to his butt. Doesn't want old saggy man butt. What are your thoughts on Autodesk Mudbox? Didn't you ask that last stream, dude? Team Weird. It's irrelevant today. It's irrelevant. No one really uses it. Few people do, but it's irrelevant. Cyber scanners were used on films like T2, The Abyss. Yeah, they're older. Yeah. Films way back. If I haven't gotten the tour, working on scanning system. It was used by the army to scan soldiers so they could fit uniforms in. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Hello from Spain. Hola. Hola, Joanne. Joanne17. ¿Cómo estás? Okay, so my family is originally from my great grandparents were from Leon, north of Madrid. So northeast of Madrid, I think, or northwest, one of the two. I forget. I haven't looked at a map. No, I'm Izzy Shoes here. Okay, someone else asked about Mudbox last week or the week before. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why, but it's yeah. I wouldn't worry about Mudbox. It's not. It's not like I said. It's just not relevant to the industry now. I mean, some people still use it. I know, but it's really no advantage, no point. Okay. So anyway, I was cleaning up the ear. I mean, it's minute at this point, but I'm just gonna use the form soft to bring up. Okay. Oh, so it's bringing it down. There, my bad. So it's below the ear. That's why I was having problems. My brain was in a different space. Here we go. There we go. That's what I was looking to do. Ah, hate that when you do that and it's against the image behind it. It'll blast connect. It'll just like connect the polygons to that and then do extreme weird things. Back of the ear doesn't really matter because I mean no one's going to be really paying attention to that. But so let's push this down. All right, let's look at that. We're getting some weird artifacting. Yep, we are. It's pressing the ear against the other one, but it's taking part of the side with it, and it's doing something funky. Wellington, New Zealand. Awesome. Do you work at Weta? I know there's some good guys I've met from Weta that I highly respect. And I mean, the whole team down there just seems to be filled with just really awesome, talented, nice people. If I have to bail on America, I'll come into New Zealand and I'll work for Weta. I'll be so happy to work for Weta. If they'll have me, which I think they would. I hope they would. That's the one cool thing. I'm like, if I'm leaving this country, I'm moving to New Zealand, and I'll have a place to work, or at least, at the very least, uh, people I can relate to, and that I can talk nerdy, geeky things with, and I can still stream, I guess. Nope, AR VR research. Oh, cool. We have room. Wellington's pretty nice to live in. Apparently, yeah, I've heard nice things about Wellington. But I mean, all of New Zealand just seems so beautiful. I mean, I love nature, and I mean that's partly why I love living here at the beach. I love living near the ocean. Um, but I mean, the fact that New Zealand's an island makes that kind of easy. Does it get really hot in the summer down in New Zealand in your summertime? I know your summertime is our winter, right? Like Australia, you guys have Christmas in the winter. I mean, in the summer. So the snow is in the opposite season. And I'm asking if it gets hot just because I think of so much of New Zealand as being really like just chilly. But I'm sure that's probably just the fall and the winter seasons. Um, Not today. Torrential rain and thunder. Wellington sits 25 to 35 Celsius. Siri, convert 25 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit, please. 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Nice. All right. Yeah, that's comfortable. It's very nice. I'll take it. If we're in the 70s to 80s, man, that's nice weather. I'll take it. It's usually shorts and a t-shirt, basically. Maybe a sweatshirt if it gets a little chilly. I mean, I like the crisp days in the fall, and spring is beautiful too, which is what we're in now. But in California, it's already starting to feel like summer. I mean, we're getting to like 70-degree weather. If you're, and this is toward the beach. If you're inland, if you're in the valley, you're up there somewhere, it's already getting like 80s, 90s at times. Like, ugh. I like a nice ocean breeze and you know, some nice temperate weather. Not too worried about the back of the ears really, because that'll all be. Now this is like off. This is really off. I'm surprised. I wonder why. Huh. Strange. Maybe it's because I was rotating the jaw, I guess. I don't know. I did that. It's off, but it's not like, again, it's not off by much. It's just pulled out really above, I guess. But I wonder, was I matching the other ear really closely? Is that why? Zoom in here a second. Oops. Zoom in the improper way. I say improper because it pixelates, because this is not how you should properly zoom in, but I'm doing this so I can get that ear. I'm gonna turn down the model opacity. No, it's off. Yeah, the scan seems to probably to the scans. Yeah, the scans are way more on point. So I should just match that. All right, interesting. Okay, let me turn that back up. Oops, went down. Up, up. There we go. And go back to actual, and then scale it up. College graphics teacher of mine worked for Weta for 9 months during filming the Lord of the Rings movies. Awesome. You can see his name in the credits. His name is Roman Reyes. He was a cool teacher. That's awesome. Yep, winter, no snow, but it's a different type of cold. Yeah, I figured. I feel like it's like misty cold, right? Isn't it kind of like damp cold, I guess, right? So that's the the feeling I interpret from the visuals I've seen, like when they were filming Lord of the Rings. Like it just seems like it's like a damp, misty kind of cold. Yeah, all right, I was right. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Um, did Paul Walker's sculptor was created in Z? You're asking was Paul Walker's sculpture? Okay, you mean like for a digital double? I'm sure it went through ZBrush. I can't imagine that they wouldn't. Um, Pennsylvania, just at 70 here in the mountains. I'm so relieved I missed the sun. You're relieved you've missed the sun? Oh, I got it. You're relieved you've missed it. Got it. Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania originally. Actually, I was born there. I was born in Amish country of all places. So weird. So weird for Spanish people to be there. I mean, it's like, I mean, we got a bunch of Latin speaking folk, Latin American folks in like the inner city, but like I was like my family was the only Spanish family in suburbia. Everyone else was white pretty much around us. A lot of Dutch Germans immigrated into Pennsylvania years ago, and have just generationally have just had families and families there, and so a lot of people have a lot of the same last name. So I've always told my friends, if you're born in Lancaster County, you probably don't want to marry someone else from Lancaster County if you guys have a similar, if you're guys, because you could be probably like third cousins or something. You know what I mean? Like you could be, you could cloud your genetics in a bad way. You probably don't want to date someone from the same town that you're born in, because there's so many people who have Amish backgrounds, and like Stolzfus is a very famous Stolzfus is a very famous Amish last name. I can't even think of all the other ones. There's so many. There's so many out there though. But yeah, I felt so out of place there. I grew up there my whole life, but you know, the visuals feel like home. But and the few friends, you know, the few close friends I've stayed with, in touch with. But yeah, Pennsylvania's unique. It's a unique place. There's definitely some beauty to it, though, for sure. The mountains. Oh, I loved. Like I forget who it was. Someone famous was mentioning that their mother was from Altoona. Oh, it was Matthew McConaughey. I think he was mentioning that I think his mom was from Altoona. I just listened to his book Green Lights like a couple weeks ago. So good. Um, you should get, if you guys need some encouragement, or inspiration, motivation, and who doesn't need encouragement, motivation, inspiration, buy his book Green Lights and do it audio. I know some people love to hold a book physically, and if that's you, then do it. But the great thing about the audiobook is he reads the audiobook, the entirety. And so and he doesn't just read it like a robot. Like he expresses himself like he's talking with you. And it's a much more natural, like conversational kind of flow. And it's great. And, you know, it's a really nice naturalistic performance. I get, because it's from his journals, you know, a lot of it. So he does a great job of narrating his autobiography, basically. It's not a full autobiography, so to speak, but it's so great. It's just really encouraging and fun, and lots of funny anecdotal stories he shares, and it's just great. So, I mean, you know, we've all had a rough year last year, I think, and probably some of us are still dealing with a lot of frustration and difficulty with probably finding work, or um, just life changes. So, like I said, if you want some encouragement, definitely pick up the book. It's well worth the money and your time. And the audiobook is great because then you can multitask if you need to. Um, but it's very good book, very entertaining, very inspiring. And just for me, I like his acting, I like his characters. I love Interstellar. Interstellar is like my top three films, and I really like Mud. I thought Mud was another film he was in that I really enjoyed. Yeah, so unfortunately, he just kind of glosses over Interstellar. He's just like, I was in this and that and this and in the last couple years. But he still admits that he enjoyed all those films that he did. He chooses his films wisely, and he kind of fell into it. It's a really, his story is interesting. He was actually, I think he was thinking about going into law originally, for a while, which is ironic because you know, he had that he had a huge hit movie with The Time to Kill. I just recently watched that again, and I'm like, man, that's a powerful movie. Whew. It's a powerful book, you know. John Grisham's story. It's kind of like To Kill a Mockingbird, but different. It's good. It's a great, great movie, great book. Sorry, I'm gonna wrap up on this here as fast as I can, and then we'll move on to facial details now, because this is all gonna be about getting some of the pores in there and wrinkles, like subtle little folds, and the lip, like the wrinkles in the lips, and just the natural detail of the face. I figured, screw it, I might as well just go to a certain degree of detail that, you know, again, I don't think all of it will be perceptible because the 3D print will be 1/6 scale, but you know, the Form 3 still prints out incredibly high resolution prints, so you might still be able to appreciate it. And then I'm gonna see about, because I've been working on like three different sculptures over the course of the months that I've been sculpting here, and uh, I gotta start looking at printing them, finishing them and printing them, so then we can all, you know, it's kind of like a bunch of them have all ramped up to a certain point, and now I have to finish them, and then we'll move all into I'll still be working on new stuff, but half of the, maybe not half, a quarter of one of these streams will be just here's setting up the print, and here it is in mid print, that kind of thing, so that you guys can kind of see a little inside view as to how it all works for those of you who've never seen a Formlabs printer going at it. So that went way too far in the ear. Just pulling that out. Yeah, I'm just gonna actually use the move brush and just pop that out. So I'm holding Alt and using the move brush, and that pulls toward the normals, toward the camera, basically. Well, it's not supposed to pull toward the camera, but it follows the normals. So whatever the tangent is of a plane, so this is your polygon, the normal tangent would be 90 degrees. So, think of a 90-degree angle. So if the polygon's facing, if you have polygons going like this, your normals are going to be spikes pointing out in those same kind of rotations. So that's what I'm doing here. So it's pulling out in the direction that the polygon's facing, so to speak, if that makes sense. Does anyone use 3D Cult for sculpting? Darn web toes. Hi from Brazil. Hello. Interesting. How is Brazil? How's the weather down there? You guys have nice weather currently? If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, I have not used 3D Coat. Sorry, I know that they're always competing and kind of stealing features from ZBrush, so I'm not going to really bring them up much. But yeah, no need for them. Almost there. So it's good to take a step back and check out your model too, just to make sure nothing else has gotten touched by accident when you're zoomed in really close, and if you have something hidden and you unhide it, and if something got moved, or if your brush just kind of like you're rotating the head so the ears are here like this, and you know, like, because let's say you did this, like let's say something that's an easy mishap is like let's say you do this, like bam, I want to work just on the ear, so you isolate just that, but you've also got the back one there, but you're like, I'm not too worried, so you're busy over here. I'm just going to do this intentionally so you guys see what I mean. You're like sculpting over here, and then you kind of by accident go over there and you didn't notice it for some reason. Like if you're like this or really close, you know, or something got, you know, you're moving stuff around like crazy, and then by accident you do that and you didn't notice. This is obviously really blatant and obvious. And then you unhide, and then you're like, oh my god, what happened? Ah! And then you got to go undo all this stuff. So always good to stop and take a step back and look at everything from a bigger distance so that you don't have all this trail, this back trail, you know, this backtracking to do. Because that happens to the best of us. So, learn from bitter experience. Be proactive and preventative and look a couple miles down the road instead of just a few feet ahead. Plan ahead. That reminds me, last night I just received a Blu-ray I ordered from eBay, limited edition 4K collectors of Tremors, the original Tremors starring Kevin Bacon. So good. The first one is fantastic. I know they've made some really weird, cheesy, like 6 more movies or something, or 5 more. I've never seen any of the sequels, but I know Phil Tippett Studios worked on one of them, or 2 of them, or a bunch of them. I don't know. So I'm kind of curious just to see his creature work, because I know they go really crazy with the weird tremor alien creature things in the future films. But the first film is such a classic. Like, oh my god! And I haven't seen it in a long time. I've seen clips here and there as like anecdotal things inserted into you know, whatever YouTube video talking about monster movies or classic monster movies or something like that. But just rewatching it as a 38-year-old now, fresh to the film in a long time, because I remember growing up watching it all the time with my sister when it was on TV. Like Fox would run it every summer, like multiple times maybe, or like different channels would run it. I just remember we would tape record it. You know, we'd record it with a VCR videotape, and we watch it that way. Occasionally, I think we rented it, but most of the time, I think we just watched it on a video. And we'd always have the, all right, pause when the commercials come, and then, oh, record, it's back on, you know, that whole thing. Hilarious. Just like with the radio, when you were a kid or a teenager, and you're like not going out and you're buying cassettes all the time or CDs necessarily, or they haven't released something yet, they have a single out, but it's only on the radio or whatever, you're just like, oh, what's that song? Click, you know, hit play and record together to record. It's just funny memories of being an 80s kid / teen into the 90s. It was good memories. But Tremors just brings back all those memories of like the early 90s to my head, and because it's just such an iconic piece of fun movie monster, you know, modern movie monster classic. And Studio ADI did such great work. And when you see some of the behind the scenes, I'm just recounting from what I remember from before, from one on, I think, on YouTube. I haven't watched all the extras yet, but the disc comes with a lot of extras, and it even has an extra bonus disc on top of it. So it's pretty filled to the brim with cool behind the scenes stuff. They did like a modern interview, like a pretty recent interview. I think maybe 2019. So it's pretty up to date. 2019, 2018. I think it's 2019. Interview with most of the cast. Or not, I shouldn't say most of the cast. Kevin Bacon, a lot of the producers and the director and the writer, I think. So yeah, not the cast, most of the crew, I should say, but the predominant, you know, directorial production people. I would have loved that they had all the cast, but they didn't have all the cast in this one recent set of interviews. But anyway, just if you haven't seen Tremors, the first Tremors, watch it. Believe me, you will enjoy it. Stream it somewhere. If you're here, I'm assuming you're a ZBrush person who likes creatures, monsters of some kind. Even though I'm only doing mostly people lately. I'm a huge creature monster fan. Mostly dinosaurs, of course, because Jurassic Park's like the thing that changed my life as a kid. But I love. I mean, in a sense, the Jurassic Park dinosaurs are kind of like movie monsters because they're stylized. I mean, they have their own style to a degree, which is Crash McCreary's great work, along with the whole Stan Winston crew, which would be Chris Swift and and John and Shane and who else? I mean, there's so many good sculptors that worked on that. There's so many people who worked on that. But yeah, yeah, Tremors, man. That to me, like, that was my childhood, was filled with like Terminator 2, Terminator 1. I always thought it looked so cheesy with the stop motion Terminator coming uh after Sarah Connor and Michael Bean's character. I can't think of his name right now. Kyle Reese. But I love Terminator 2. I always thought it was so badass. And of course Jurassic Park. And I mean, it's just, those were all, I mean, Jurassic Park was like based on an original book and a novel by Michael Crichton, of course. And Terminator is definitely a ripoff of Westworld, because Westworld, if you don't know, was a film that was the only film that Michael Crichton, who wrote Jurassic Park and Sphere and Congo and Rising Sun and a bunch of other awesome novels, he was the first one to make this. I mean, there are other people who made the killer robot story before, but when you go and watch the original Westworld, written and directed by Michael Crichton, and it's not the most amazing film for sure, but it's cool. And when you understand the story behind like the heat vision, thermal vision that he had to talk to guys at JPL and NASA to figure out if he could use their cameras to get thermal vision into the film, because that was the only cameras available. Then he found some guy here in California who was willing to do it for like a fraction of the price that they would have charged him to use the cameras for. And it's just all, like, I loved his thinking, because I'm the same way. I come from science, but I'm in the arts. Medicine and science is my background, so I think very technically nerdy. I love to get into the insane detail of things and understand the why and how. That's always been my question in life since I was a child, was why and how. But why, Mom? How does it happen? Why is this that way? Blah blah blah. You know, I love animals, love nature. So biology was just a joy for me a lot of times, just learning about all that. But Michael was the same way. Mr. Crichton was the same way. He was obviously comes from a medical background. He was a doctor who never practiced in the end. And he, if you read his book, his autobiography, Travels, it's great. It's so cool and fascinating, because he talks about places he lived here in LA, and how he connected with different people and traveled around the world. And definitely a few things where I'm like questionable. I'm like, why didn't you, like, he was in another country and they were like, it's some weird stuff. But I'm just like, why didn't you have a problem with that? But anyway, read it and you'll know what, Eric, if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about, I think, because he has a colleague who doesn't have a problem with certain people of a certain age group in a certain place that I won't say any more of. Crazy. But otherwise, his life was fascinating. And so he wrote this story and directed it, and Westworld's all about robots that become psychotic and just want to kill everybody. And it's just clearly like Terminator came out after that. So I'm like, everyone's like, oh my god, James Cameron. Like, Cameron didn't even write Terminator, did he? I mean, he wrote parts of it, but there are other people who worked on the script. And anyway, so it just seems like they really ripped off Westworld. Like, they just were like, oh, here we go, let's just do that, but cooler. And there's like the argument, of course, is the cliche that everyone says, and they think they're being so original. Nothing's really original, though. Everything's inspired by something else. No, duh, man. We know, but like, there's still like, when things are so close to something else, you're like, it's inspired by. Okay. Yeah. Sure. It's inspired by it. No, I mean, there's always that like, it's almost like borderline plagiarism. It's like, it's pretty close. But yeah, I mean, there's still great stuff, that there's room for it all, I think, though, too. That's the thing. Like, you can enjoy Westworld and you can enjoy Terminator. And the first two films are great. Especially the second. For me, it's the second one's the best. Just like with Aliens versus Alien, everyone's like, "Oh, Alien's the best." It's all the subtlety, and it's so like, "Oh, dude, get over yourself." Whatever. I mean, we're all allowed to like what we like. I love Aliens more than Alien. I think they perfected the design. It looks much better. The aliens are creepier. I mean, it's more action oriented, right? It's not like this slow, creepy monster that's killing people, but the execution, no pun intended, when the alien like attacks people, or it's creepy for like the jump scare moment or something, or like, oh wow. But I saw it in reverse too. That's my problem. I saw it after I saw Aliens, and again, I saw Aliens when I was probably way too young, but I remember it was on TV, and my dad just let me watch it with my sister, and That was the first time ever as a child, pretty much in any film ever, that I felt nauseous from seeing when Bishop gets railed by the Queen. I remember being like, huh? But I still loved it, and I was like, that was freaking awesome, man. I like got the adrenaline pump going, and it was just like Indiana Jones. I loved all the Indiana Jones films. I wanted to be Indiana Jones as a kid. Um, but for me, the Last Crusade is the best. I love the first one and the third the most. The second one's okay. I know it takes place chronologically. For those who don't know, Temple of Doom actually takes place historically before Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's actually a prequel. But I didn't know that for decades. Um, but I still love the first and the third the most. But if I had to pick one of all, then it's number three, because I just love the father-son dynamic. And even though I had a great relationship with my dad, I still do. Uh, I just appreciated that generational mix a lot. But I mean, number one's a pretty close one too, because I know some people complain about the bad jokes and the grossness of like the insinuation that they both slept with Ilsa and all this stuff. But whatever. I love their connection though. I guess the emotion, there's power behind that too. When, for spoiler, if anyone hasn't seen Indiana Jones Last Crusade, plug your ears for a second. I'm sorry, but it came out like in the early 80s or late 80s. When they shoot his father, when they shoot Sean Connery, dang, like that shock the first time you're watching it, especially as a kid, you're like, oh my God, they shot his dad. And it's like he's watching him then die in front of him slowly, like he's bleeding out. And that just really hit me as a kid. I was like, wow, like, oh, that's hard, especially because I have a good relationship with my father, so that your brain makes those immediate associations, where if you have a good relationship with your father, any father figure that's loving and that suffers hits you a lot harder than, of course, if you're somebody who resents your father or has a terrible father. It's going to be harder probably for a lot of people to really empathize, to really feel that. Although I'm sure if someone had a rough childhood with their father and then um, they've longed for a loving relationship with a strong guiding force in their life, a strong father, then I'm sure they could empathize too. But for me, it was just an immediate like, oh, my father's a good man. He's always treated me really well and inspired me and guided me. And so seeing father figures that are those kind of characters suffer, it's always much more impactful for myself. Or like another great example of it's a more recent film, more recent than Indy 3, Last Crusade, but Frequency, another great father-son dynamic film that, if you haven't seen Frequency with Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel, watch Frequency. So good. I liked it. I thought it's unique. It's a film, without spoiling anything, it's a film that dances around concepts of time travel, but in a different way. It's not like no one is time traveling, but there is an interaction with the time element of two different times interacting with each other. It's cool. It's just unique. And again, very moving, very powerful, very like, it has family values, but they're not like the sweet, saccharine, sugary, just like it's a family movie. Like it'll probably make you cry or at least move you to some degree. And it's intense, and there's definitely action and drama and crime thriller whodunit kind of thing going on. It's really unique. Again, it's smart. It's a smart movie, I think. But it has elements of course, it's fictional, and there's an element of almost not fantasy, but like the whole impossibility of two times interacting with each other. Kind of like, I guess if I could parallel it, it would be like in relation to The Lake House. If you've ever seen, speaking of Keanu, we're coming back around. If you've ever seen The Lake House with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Again, I love that movie. I know some people don't. Again, it's just the play with time and how two people of different times are interacting with each other through different means, and the relationship they foster, and that how they start to fall in love, but it's through intellectuality first and like actual relation, like speaking to each other. I just love that. I thought it's cool. It's smart. Again, it's not like super superficial. It's not focused on they never even see each other at first. They first are speaking to each other through writing letters, and then they eventually see each other in passing, but at different times. It's just cool. It's just a cool, unique way of telling a story that has a deep emotional element to it, component. And again, there's an interesting father-son dynamic in there too, interestingly enough. So yeah, here's a film list for you guys. If you guys haven't seen these films, watch them. You'll enjoy them, believe me. And if you don't, well, then you have bad taste. Kidding. Relax. That's my opinion. If you don't like it, then you suck. No, but I think they're all good films. I like them. So just matching up the eyelid here, even though again you may not even see the eyes. I keep toying with the idea. I think I'm gonna try my best to 3D print a clear lens and then make them like the lens kind of insert into this space. And maybe I'll make like some sort of little hidden notches or something so that it almost like clicks into the face. So they're still clear and you see through them to the eyes. But it'll be a very dark smoke paint that I use. So it'll be transparent, but it'll be like this. So it'll be mostly reflective, but dark. So you still see like the form of the eyes, but you're not going to be like micro detail necessarily because of course the head will be so small. Yeah, I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do. And maybe I'll even fuse like... No, because the bridge. See, that's a thing. Like the glasses, they have such a small bridge, such a small bridge. Part of me is wondering if I should print that and fuse it to the center of his nasal bone there, and then the two, and maybe even the temples. I mean the what are they called? I guess temples, right? What do you call those things? The pieces that go from the glasses over your ears. I'm wondering if I should, again, fuse that to the head, maybe? Because it's so delicate that even though they come away from the head, I could extrude them into the head so they kind of come out a little bit. I don't know. It's an interesting challenge because they're so fine, and that's, excuse me, so hard to print without them failing, or just not, just failing completely while they're printing. That's guaranteed to happen most of the time. I don't know. I'm still debating how to do the glasses and the sunglasses and do them well. Because if you extrude them out too much, then it looks weird when you're looking at the head from any other angle. You'll see this thing's kind of like sticking out. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just keep them much more conformed to the head so that they look like they're just right against the temples instead of being out, even though they should be. So there might be some little artistic compromise where the lenses curve around the face just a bit more so that they can attach right there, and then I just insert them and they'll be thicker than what they will look like. They'll look like they're just sitting in front of the face and are clear, but they'll be right up against the brow, and then they actually will fill in the entire space inside against the eye, so that'll kind of be like a snap fit sort of. But then I'm thinking about maybe I'll put like a notch, an indentation in here, and then that way they can kind of snap in and they're pressure fitted, so the pressure will keep them there. Or I could even just put in a tiny bit of like super glue right inside those notches, and then the notches that will fit inside will have a tiny amount of gap so that they can fuse to the glue, and then they'll be hidden that way, and it won't look like there's much change to the face. Because going inward, you don't really see too much necessarily, but if you put them outward, they'll look like warts, right? So it has to be that the face has a negative, and the glasses, the lenses, will have the positive. Sorry, I'm just sort of thinking out loud. But anyway, these are always the challenges you have when you're trying to create unique, trying to solve problems in a unique way for something that you don't want it to look like everything else. Because like I've seen a lot of the few, I shouldn't say a lot because there's not many, the few statues that people have made of Keanu as Neo, and not even statues. There's one statue that's like pretty crappy, like I said, in the Ultimate Collector's Edition from like whatever it was, the early 2000s, I guess. And it's like just a bust. I looked it up recently. It's a bust of him. Like they try to make it. I get the idea that they were going for, but it didn't execute very well, in my opinion. Like they wanted to have Matrix code kind of running off of his bust, and he has the jacket, but the jacket looks more like leather. It doesn't have like the look of like wool, which is what the jacket. It was some sort of fibrous, material. It wasn't leather. Anyway, so and his face is a very mushy, it wasn't really tight and clean and crisp, and the glasses were like chunky, kind of fused to the face, and it just looked bad. It just didn't look like a high quality art piece at all, which you don't really expect with something like that. But it just feels almost like why include it then, because it's so, it's just not good. But again, I mean, I'm sure people love it. I'm super critical, of course, because of what I do. uh, I was just bummed too because I've had the experience of when you're making something and uh, it gets shipped to China and then they do a horrible. They just butcher it. They just totally chop it up and or redo it. I think I told you guys this last time. Like the Moses sculpture that I worked on for Sight and Sound, I worked completely with the president of the company one on one, and it was great. It was fun, and it turned out awesome. And I was proud of how it turned out under his direction, um, and he gave me a lot of freedom, a lot of room to do what I wanted, or to interpret what they wanted in the way that I saw was best or thought would be best. Um, and then we sent off the sculpture. We 3D printed another version of it, and this was with the Z Corp 450, if I'm not mistaken. And that prints with a powder. It's an SLS machine, so selective laser sintering. So that has a laser that fires at a really fine powder that chemically changes it when it sinters it, when it burns it. It changes the powder from its current state into it kind of like liquefies it and then freezes it in place. So it kind of melts into the particles around it. Kind of like the way that the laser works with the SLA printer. You know, it's fusing the particles, the molecules of the plastic resin, the liquid resin, into covalent bonds that are hardened plastic. And then it gets baked further with a UV light out of a specific wavelength. So the SLS printer that we were using, the powder, when it's sintered, it turns into a kind of porcelain, like a rough sandstone porcelain, delicate thing. And so it's terrible in that sense because it's not durable at all. It's not even, like the resins you get here from Form Labs are great. I mean, this stuff is awesome. It's resilient, but it's resilient to a fault. I mean, something like these feathers. You can see the one here. This was at a trade show, and the other feather should have been right here, but someone broke it, didn't leave the piece anywhere. They took it or threw it away and put this back on the shelf. And I was like, gee, thanks, classy. But so we ship that off. It gets broken along the way, and they tell us, but it was still salvageable. Like I think just the staff broke or whatever. He's holding the staff, and but they're like, but it's okay. We're not going to use it anyway. We're just going to use it as a reference, and we're going to sculpt our own version of it. And I was like, oh no. They finally, like months later, sent back the first prototype, which is from the master mold that they made from their own version, and it looks like a Hobbit version of Moses. Like it's like his legs are too short and his feet are too fat and his face is all effed up, and it was just like, oh my god, like, dude, you guys just butchered my sculpture. You just reinterpreted it, and it just looks like a troll. It looks like the troll Moses. I'm like, oh my god, guys, ugh. And I was so pissed. And I'm so glad my name wasn't on it then, because I'm like, that's not my work. And it's like a parody of my work. It's like someone mocking my work. It just looks horrible. So that was really disappointing. But that happens a lot. And so all that to say that the quality of sculptures of characters we love are often not that good. And you can see, if you guys are wondering what I'm talking about, go on my website. I'll give you a link to my website. It's lionarts.com and line-arts.com. And you'll see the Moses sculpture. If you keep going down the line of images in my portfolio, you'll see it. And I'm really proud of it. Like, I'm happy the way it turned out. I mean, again, like, it's not supposed to be super high resolution detail. It was meant to look like a stone sculpture because it became a giant, like 20-foot tall sculpture that we have in the rotunda at the theater. When people would walk in, you'd see this massive statue of Moses, like, parting the Red Sea. And originally I conceived it that there were going to be these giant acrylic waves that would be like 30 feet tall, 40 feet tall. And I sculpted the waves and everything. I designed it all. And I told them about my idea, and they're like, dude, we love this. Like, let's do it. We got to price how much it'll cost to get these massive acrylic waves made. And then we'd put lights underneath them. So I designed them for light transmission, so that when you'd walk through, you'd have these rippling LEDs, really powerful LEDs, at the base of them, so that the light would pass through, and it would pass through like water caustics, kind of. So it would cast water caustics out of the acrylic waves into the environment around us, so you'd feel like you're surrounded by these, and you're walking past these massive walls of water. And kind of inspired by the Prince of Egypt. If you guys have seen that scene in the Prince of Egypt, which is the story of Moses, when the Red Sea's parted, you see the lightning strike happen, and there's this silhouette of a whale swimming through the wall of water that they're walking next to. This part of the ocean is awesome, beautiful. So I wanted to bring some of that element of like scale and like whoa, like wonder and awe to the sculpture. So aside from it just being a big sculpture of Moses, I thought it would be so much more awesome that you have these massive walls of water But they priced them out, and it was like $40,000 for one wall for one wave. So it'd be like 80 grand or something to get two giant acrylic, and that's even without the electronics or whatever, added at the base. So it was too much for their budget, and I was like, damn it. But anyway, so yeah, there was a lot of thinking and a lot of like fun, creative ideas that I had going for that whole development cycle for that sculpture and its purpose in the theater. And it's kind of a bummer that it never reached my full idea for it. But still, I mean, I'm at least proud of the way that the sculpture turned out. I thought it turned out fine. It turned out good. And I was referencing like, because it's a face of someone we don't really know, and they were like, we wanted to like seem like an older, wiser man, and blah blah blah. So I looked at all these different actors' faces that I liked that were a bit older, and I used a lot of Anthony Hopkins, and then a mixture of some, like, I think a little bit of Liam Neeson, and like a few other gentlemen that I always liked their performance. I think I looked at Sean Connery, looked at even though he's not older, I mean now he is, but I looked at Gerard Butler from 300, and just looked at all these different faces and actors. I think Charlton Heston even, of course, because he was like the original Moses in the Ten Commandments, and yeah, so it was a fun project because they gave me a lot of creative freedom, and there was a lot of ideas that I had that they liked and that they wanted to implement. But they were just like, stop thinking so big. I'm like, that's my thing. I think big. I don't think small. That's why I want to do films, but the films I want to make are like big. They're grand ideas and grand adventures that are freaking crazy. So it's like I got to start small though. So it's been a challenge for me to even figure out what I was going to do for my first short film until recently, until like 2-3 years ago. And so now I've been finally, did all the motion capture for it myself and got a bunch of things ready and got the model for the boy. So it's a short based on The Last Guardian, just as a little, really it's just a love letter, but also like a weird little hopeful flag. I say weird because it's like the odds are low, but it'd be like, hey Sony, I'd love to direct your film on this, because if the script is, from what I hear, if the script is correct, if it's real that they're planning to do, it's just, oh god, it sounds horrible. They're bringing in like a lot of current politics into it, and changing, like adding more kids to it, and changing the gender and like all this stuff. And it's like, dude, it's like you're doing the wrong thing as usual. Again, with a game adaptation, you don't take game adaptations, you don't take the story of a game and then completely change everything and add more to it. That's what people hate. That's why they are terrible, because they have great stories in the game and then you're manipulating them into something completely different. Like, people love a book, they want to see the book realized beautifully, and people always say, well, you can never match the ideas you have in your head. No, I'm not expecting that. I'm just expecting something like Jurassic Park from the novel, and that was even improvements I think that they made, like making Hammond more lovable and caring, as opposed to like just being a jerk, like he is in the novel. For those who don't know, Mr. John Hammond, the guy who created Jurassic Park, is a real jerk in the novel. By comparison, doesn't have any real love for his grandkids like he does in the movie. So I think they made the right call with that. And so yeah, Lord of the Rings, amazing interpretations of the books. I think I never read all the books, but I've read excerpts of them, and I thought they did a great job. And for my sister, who read all the books, she was just like, I love these movies. So again, I don't expect adaptations to be one-to-one exactly, but you want them to be close, and you want them to have a great inspiration and the right beats, the major beats, right? The major characters have to be there. Don't add extra characters that would just cloud the main story. And and that's exactly what it sounds like they're doing for the Last Guardian adaptation rumors that I heard. Who knows if it's actually 100% true. But anyway, so that's what I'm working on behind the scenes when I have time, which is more so lately. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling on. I know there's chat coming in there. I'll get to it in one sec. But I feel like we're finally there now with the face. Probably smooth it out a little. All right, looking good. So before we go any further, let's save this. Overwrite that. And turn these on, turn that off, and save the project as well. Actually, I'll do this as another one. There we go. New version. All right. So what's in the chat? Sorry, I've missed a bunch of stuff. I know. Haven't seen that in years. Yeah, Tremors. Your work is excellent. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Dexter, hello. Pretty sure we saw it in theaters. Oh man, mixtapes. Yeah. Can you export a model subtool from ZBrush as a brep so you can bring into Fusion 360 without having to modify it? So no, you can't. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what brep is. I guess that's a proprietary file format for Fusion 360. But no, not that I'm aware of. You cannot export in that format. You'd have to. I remember because I've done some work where I had to use some different formats, and there's a whole bunch of like hoops you have to jump through to kind of get them to blend right or to work. And I think if I'm not mistaken, what I did for certain formats that I knew ZBrush couldn't do was I scaled it correctly as best I could, exported it out as like an OBJ or whatever, most generic format, bring it into an STL, bring it into Maya, and then in Maya you have a lot more file options, and one of those, a couple of those are more likely to dog hair, more likely to be compatible with Fusion 360 or other. I think what was it? It was like a weird. It was a weird format that starts with an O. Can't remember, but yeah, too much dog hair. Corgis shed a lot. Anyway, let's see what else do you have. How's it going? Can you? Oh yeah, sorry. Next fan art. Ryan, I'm not sure what you mean by maybe that would be good next fan art. You mean Tremors? I'm thinking about doing a Tremor statue actually because I haven't seen anyone do it, and it would be a lot of fun. Just a creature with like the fucking tongues coming out with the snake tongue things. It'd be awesome. For me, it's been Star Wars, Close Encounters, Jurassic Park, and The Abyss. Okay, it's for like your favorite stuff from back then. Yeah, The Abyss is a classic too. And of course, I love the original Star Wars. The first three are great, and the third one of the prequels is okay too. And like the fight with Darth Maul, just the fight with Darth Maul in the first one. That's the only thing that's good. Original Westworld movie was interesting. Really liked the new series. Yeah, I love the new series. I'm glad I got to work on season 2. I wish I could have worked on season 1 because that was the best. I feel like the last season, I'll take the skin off the bone. Like there's parts of the most recent season I like, and there's a lot that I didn't. I love seeing, because I'm a futurist. I love studying technology and seeing where like things I've been working, books I've been writing on and off since college, are in the near future and deal with like all kinds of cool elements of technology and yet universal truths, and how while juxtapositioning how technology always changes, humanity still kind of remains the same. We still have the same urges and desires and needs, and we have the same, people still hold the same beliefs spiritually, even though they are ancient beliefs. They're still held on to and loved or hated, depending on what side of the spectrum you're on. And so I love futurism, and I love seeing technology and how humanity interacts with it and uses it for good or for bad, like any tool. So I really love getting to the nitty gritty, and then also, but then still giving it a beautiful, sexy coat, giving the outside of it just a gorgeous look. And so I think they did a lot of that with this last season of Westworld. It's pretty cool. I love the motorcycle. I kind of wish that they would go a little bit more into detail with some of this technology, though. Like familiarize the audience via the vehicle, no pun intended, of a person being newly exposed to some new tech, and at least explaining some parts of it. You know what I mean? Like even if the person had to go to, like, even if Dolores had to go to a shop, a store to buy this bike instead of just stealing it. Just to get the rundown from people or so, you know what I mean? Even though, again, that wouldn't make sense, just like certain things in Interstellar where they're explaining something to some advanced idea or basic idea of an advanced concept to someone who should already know it. In her case, just like what they did for Cooper with the black hole thing, the whole like stereotypical, like, oh, this is how black hole works, the hole and sphere. And it's like, dude, he would have known that way before he got in the shuttle and wound up in space. Like, that would have been explained a long time ago. But they did it for the audience, of course. So I would think for the same thing for Westworld, they should have had her like walk into. But again, she's a robot, she's a computer, so she could just wirelessly access. Oh, let me learn all the things about these bikes. All right, that's the one I want. Then she'd just boop, like hack it, unlock it, and take it. I get it, but they could have even shown that somehow, where like you see the different options of all the bikes and all the features it has, and just like instead of just being like, oh, it's just a bike and it's self-driving. Like I love that look of it and how it works, but if they would have just explained some of the logic, some of that universe through logic, through explain, I just would have thought that would be better. But anyway, sorry, going down the nerd hole for Westworld. But yeah, I love Westworld still. I'm still curious to see what the next season is going to be like, and I would love to work on it again just because it's such a great series. Um, Live for these kinds of problems. Can't wait to see the results. Okay. Lee Stevo. What kind of problems exactly? I guess just talk about like the eyes. I guess we're probably this reference to the sunglasses. How is life? How is the life of a 3D artist? There's pain in searching jobs, or is it very clean? There's pain for sure. I mean, it depends if you're a freelancer like myself. Yeah, it's probably more painful than if you're just somebody who's happy to just sign on to a work for a corporation. But then there's also it's the pain, the stress, but there's also freedom. But then it's like each position, each type of career path has its own stress. If you're working 9 to 5 for 5 days a week for a company, you've got the annoyance of having to show up at a certain time, even if it's just online. You know what I mean? Like you'll show up on Slack or on a Zoom call and talk with everybody and hear the prep and then check in and then do your own thing and just feel like, all right, got to get this done by this amount of time, have this deadline, and so that's kind of annoying. I like my freedom, but then there's the flip side. It's like as a freelancer, you have all this freedom, all the time management, a lot of flexibility, but the other side is you're not sure when your next paycheck's coming from. You're not sure when it's coming and where it's coming from, who is going to be supplying it. You might get a contract with some group that you have for a few months or a few weeks, which is nice. But even like when you work for a company, a lot of times when I work for different companies, it's a contract, it's a freelance gig. But I still prefer that a lot of times rather than having like in perpetuity you're going to be working for this company for as long as they want you, and you're expected to show up 9 to 5 and bust your ass when it's get overtime. But yeah, I don't know, I'm really ready to be independently wealthy. But it's not because I want to sit on a beach and just drink. I have so much I want to do with my own career and filmmaking and storytelling and my own designs and ideas and products and fan art. I hate that term, but creating sculptures of characters and things I love that I know a lot of other people would love. I just need to figure out how to get licenses for that kind of stuff so I can sell it. But I would just love to be at this point. I'm invested in a bunch of stocks, and hopefully one of them looks like it's going to blow up soon. So if that does, then I'm peacing out. I'm taking a year off and just focusing on just my film and just my work, and yeah, and just not you get to a point too where you've worked on enough things where you've had those experiences, and then you realize that it's not all cracked up to be like what you thought it would be, and that reality sets in, and you're like, yeah, there are many people I think who want to be independently wealthy because they just want to sit around and do nothing. They just want to be lazy, and that's not me. Like I can never just sit around and do nothing. There's so much I want to do with my life and my time, and it's being interrupted by having to work for other people. So that sucks. But that's life, and we all have to work. I mean, typically, you know what I mean? Like most of us aren't born into millionaire homes with a silver spoon in our mouth, and if we wouldn't. If we were, a lot of us wouldn't be still inspired and moving toward what we want to do. Because most people, I think, when they come from a lot, they don't have that hunger and that desire and that work ethic. They just sort of become lazy drug addicts or whatever, you know what I mean? Or just hedonistic, just happy to please themselves. Anyway, I've paid my dues. I've definitely paid my dues, more so not just in this industry, but my whole career before this, man. I mean, working in a hospital in ER and then geriatric care, you've seen the worst of life. You've seen the roughest parts of life. You're, cleaning up after human adults like they're babies, to put it gently, and and also helping save lives in an ER and work with the whole team. And you deal with a lot of seeing and experiencing tremendous traumas, mostly through watching other people go through them, and then welcoming the families to meet their passed on loved ones. So there's a lot that I've been through that a lot of people will never go through. And so I just feel like, all right, I've paid my dues. I'm ready to like really move on with what I want to do with my life, and not just keep working menial little things for other people to make them wealthy and make them rich. You know what I mean? So that's why more than ever, I'm focusing on how to grow finances and try to just break free of the whole daily grind, because there's so much else I want to do with my life. And it's like, I guess I got to find investors too. That's the other thing smart, is finding people to invest in you and your vision. So, which is also another reason why I'm interested in NFTs. Like, if I can get enough people, reselling my own NFTs, my own designs, that could be perpetual income as well. But the struggle is real. The struggle is real. So yeah, no, the life of a 3D artist, it really depends what you want. You know what I mean? That's the other thing. All I've described could be fine for some people. That's all they want. It's just to be able to work for a company making stuff for them to make cool projects and make them rich. Make someone else very wealthy while you're getting paid okay, or decently even, but you're not independent. You're not paid enough to never have to work again, or you know what I mean, work again for somebody. So, and I mean, in the end, I know, you're always working for somebody because you're producing something that somebody has to want. I know, I get it. Like, I'm not, yeah, I get it. But I mean, at least to have the freedom to say, I'm going to focus on this for a year and not have to worry about anything else. Because even last year, it's like a lot of us were unemployed, but it wasn't we were just sitting idly, like not trying to get work, you know what I mean? Or not trying to do anything. Like, definitely stressful and finding other means of survival. So yeah, it wasn't for me. Last year was not a vacation, not by any means. More downtime, but not stress free and not a vacation. Anyway, sorry, long tangent. So yeah, life of 3D artist is not easy. Saw now that the live finished. LOL. Not sure what you mean by that. Saw now that the live finished. Looking at it now, that would have been cool with the water. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think the water would have been awesome with Moses. Also, I'm literally working on a series of work using clear resin prints influenced by LED lights right now. That's awesome, dude. Jason Pond, very cool. Yeah, combining electronics with 3D printed parts is something I just started to get into a few years ago, and I haven't really done much more with it because I already have ideas done in my head, but there's a lot of work that has to go into creating the statue that the LEDs would be integrated with. So yeah, I'm excited about doing more of that, but it's work for sure. It's definitely a lot of work. They can't actually relate to the game they played. The playthrough is usually unique to the player, and more you deviate from the original content, the further you alienate it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't need to be a playthrough one-to-one, but I just mean there needs to be those major beats, right? And the major story points have to be there. And then, if a video game takes like 30 hours to beat, it's because you're doing a lot of like medial tasks in the game, they're stretching out gameplay. But you could easily chop up those areas that aren't really major story beats and then make, you don't have to make a 2-hour movie. Make it a 90-minute, make it a really nice, tight 90-minute film, which is what I think like couple films that I want to do their adaptations could be, like Last Guardian. Probably could easily be a 2-hour movie, I think, because it's a long game and there's a lot of beautiful areas. But maybe you can make it a 1-hour movie, or an hour and a half. Like I've been talking with Ed about I'm still working on some pitch stuff for Echo the Dolphin, and I think that could be a great 90-minute movie. Like, it doesn't have to be a mega 2-hour thing, like epic. I think it could be a good, tight, really concise 90-minute film and be powerful and really leave a mark on people in a great way. So, it's like people just assume certain things about when you want to make an adaptation. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that. It can be something else, and it could be excellent still and be fantastic and beloved. So, it doesn't have to fit in the exact same hole as everything else. In fact, it may actually do better because it stands out as something so different and, beautiful. So, yeah. I love what you were talking about, the waves and Moses. Oh, thanks. I was talking about Tremors. Okay, yeah, fan art. Yeah. Someone speaking in Russian. I'm sorry, I cannot read Russian. Can you type in English? What work did I do for Westworld? Hop over to my website. It's up in the chat, lion-arts.com. It's a samurai fight. When I want to call him Kaneda because I think of his I love this actor and I'm so sorry I forget his name, but he was great as Dr. Kaneda in Sunshine, just Danny Boyle's movie Sunshine, which is an awesome movie too. I think if you haven't seen it, watch it. But he's a great Japanese actor. He did a lot of the research for how to properly hold the katanas and all the poses that they do for the samurai fight. But he is one of the hosts in Shogun World, which is season 2. So there's a samurai fight and somebody loses a limb and a head, and I did the amputation for the whole arm and all the bones and muscles, and I had to look up all kinds of nasty graphic photos of people losing their hands, so that all of this was from here all the way back to here was all digital, and this whole section was shown like straight at the camera without the hand. So you have your radius and your ulna and all your muscles, all your tendons, all that stuff is just hanging there. So well, it's chopped off actually very clean. So I had to do all of that. It's just it's you know it's on screen for quite a bit and it's right in the camera. I just wish I could have done more, but yeah, the whole amputation was me. So that was fun. I worked on that when I was at Shade VFX, which is now defunct. They went out of business, unfortunately. Um, you don't like the term fan art? Why? I don't like the term fan art just because so much of the time it seems to lessen or lower the perceived quality. Even I mean, if you're just titling something, it just seems to belittle it. Like I don't like saying anything because that's a new term, fan art. You know what I mean? It just seems and so much fan art is so bad. Like there's so much stuff that has that branding, that type of association, that name on it. And there's so many people who aren't, sadly, and that's not to be mean, it's just there's so many people who aren't good artists, who are just young, or they're just they're just kids who just don't know what they're doing. They're just sort of slapping something together, or they're teenagers or college students who just love an anime style, you know what I mean, or Pokemon or whatever, and they just draw or produce like that, only that style, or like furries or just whatever, just weird stuff and low quality, and they just put that out there all the time. This is my fan art of blah blah blah, and it's so much of it's just artistically so bad, and whenever I hear fan art, if someone says this is my fan art of X, I just assume that most of the time it's going to be bad. It's just going to be like cringy bad. Um, I just prefer saying this is a tribute piece, or this is my interpretation of Neo, or this is my Matrix piece. Like everyone knows I didn't write the movie. I don't own the IP. It's just obviously I'm a fan. Everyone knows who the people are who made these things, so they're so famous and they're so prolific. So I just don't even feel the need to call it fan art of, like, I just hate that. I just love saying this is my Tremors piece. This is my Jurassic Park piece. This is my whatever. Everyone knows you don't own it. Like, so it's not a matter of needing to title it as fan art, and it's obviously, you're not the copyright owner. You're not the IP owner. You're just a fan. But I just don't like the term, I guess, because it seems to lessen it in my brain, and I know other people who've responded the same way. Like they hear the word fan art and they assume a lot of times it's not going to be great work or just mediocre. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a masterpiece. It's not going to be a landmark, definitive thing where, I mean, I just wish that if people were putting work out there, that they would just do as best they can. You know what I mean? And maybe some of it is the best they can, but still, it's like, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's my crux. That's my bone to pick with fan art. I just don't like the term, and I think because it's associated with just so much mediocrity. It sounds mean, but it's true. Sorry. Um, by the way, give this video a like if you like what you're watching, please. Please don't give us a thumb down. Pixologic does want more responses. So if you're watching this footage, if you're on YouTube, or I guess, or if you can heart it, like it on Twitch. I don't know how it works on Twitch. I forget. But if you can give us a thumbs up, that'd be great. I know some people don't like when I have like harsh opinions like that, but hey, we're all entitled to our opinions. And I think you got to be critical. You got to be not mean-spirited critical, but you have to be critical. You have to be able to be discerning between quality and lesser than. And that's just part of being an artist. It's being able to be critical of your own work too, and say, well, that could be better. Got to fix this. So I'm producing films in LA, and man, this last year was obviously the worst. Yep. Just getting rolling a little now. Yeah, exactly, Glowbox. Like things are just slowly kind of picking up now, and it's annoying as hell. Another feeling can't sit and do nothing either. Yeah. Amen to that. Good luck. Thank you. Appreciate it. NFT does sound interesting, to be honest. Yep. And that's why I became a gigolo. Nice. We have been very lucky in that context here in New Zealand. Yeah. Would you be able to share the wave project as a pic completed? Um, you mean of Moses? I think I have some photos of it on my phone that I took of the renders like years ago. Let me see if I can find them quick, and I can show you guys that. You know, it's just digital because it was never physically produced. Um, let's see, where is it? All right, there's that. No. Mm, I might have it on my phone. If not, it's on one of my other computers, and I won't be able to show it today. But let me see. I feel like I have it on my phone. Just have so many photos like dropped into this art, art folder. It's just tons of my work and reference photos and sorry guys, 1 second. Let me see if I can find this. Um, this is all intermixed with other artwork too. Okay, yeah, here we go. Trying to think. So yeah, I guess I can do that. Like, let me see here. Yeah, so I'm gonna blow up my camera here for a second, take over the other screen, so I can just show you from my phone because I would have to email this or like Dropbox it to myself or something, and it's gonna take too long. So let me go into OBS here quick. I'm gonna make myself huge, and so this is top down. So this is looking top down. Let's see if I can get it to focus. So this is all in ZBrush. This is blown out, isn't it? It's just white as heck. Oh man, it's so blown out. I wonder if I lower the brightness on the screen if that'll help. Helps a little bit actually. Let me lower it even more and see if that. Yeah, it's funny. It's so dark for me, but you guys can see it well. Okay, so this is like top down. They almost look glowing anyway, but excuse me. Make it even darker. Jeez, this is like so underexposed, but now you guys can actually see it. Okay, so so there he is from the 3/4 rear view, with the waves parting. Then this is kind of more like a front view. So you got like the front, the side, and the rear, kind of rising up there. So I have the white really like just cresting, and then to sort of like this was even before I finished closing the hand on the model. But yeah, and then you can see here like some of the it was mirrored over, symmetrical. I don't think I did much asymmetrical work. And this is kind of what it would look like from behind. So when you walk around the statue, you would see that. And then it's just like his face and whatnot, because they wanted the wind blowing and him kind of giving like a war cry and all that. So anyway, so yeah, that's the water with the Moses statue for those curious. Anyway, years old now. So there you go, Joe. Then say, nice to remember that sequence. It was great. Turritera. I'm not sure if you mean the sequence from Westworld or some other sequence. Remember that scene? That's so cool. I'm assuming that's all reference to Westworld, right? That's true. It has cognotations to it. Yeah. Okay, makes sense for fan art. I did put quite a bit of work into my Trico, and I'm going to continue to refine it probably forever. Yeah. Tribute piece does sound way better, right? Yeah. See, it's all about wording, branding. Like words have power, and how you frame it can really affect people's perception of it. So how you title something has effect. And yeah. Couldn't newer versions, everything we have today, be considered fan art? I can't say the same forever. I mean, it can't say the same forever. All things are reinvented, yeah, at some point, including digital. Yeah, for sure. In that sense, yeah, you can totally. I mean, I guess like what I was saying before earlier. It's the cliche of nothing's original. We know, yeah, yeah, like nothing's truly original because everything's inspired by everything else. And we're almost at 4 o'clock, so I won't be able to go much further. I know it's late today, so I'll go a little bit over, but I think we have... Or do we not? I think Ian canceled today. I think he was... Whoa. I think he couldn't. But I can't go too much later anyway, because I got to get back to my other stuff. But let me just double check to make sure we don't have someone else after me. Okay, so Spicer, he's on at 5. Okay. All right. Yeah, so... All right, so I'm good until before 5. I'll probably stop around like 4:15, 4:30. Can I put what version? Yeah, it says up in the top corner. I still haven't upgraded. I'm sorry. I still haven't upgraded to the newest version, just because again there's new stuff in the new version that I'm not in any need for right now. It won't affect my work immediately. So yeah, but I got the notification again. They're like, you should upgrade the new version. I know. I just haven't done it because I've been busy with other stuff. Not much of a need. I mean, I'm interested to try out the new stuff for sure, but I just don't have a immediate need for what it provides. Okay. So, sorry, getting back to all this. Oh, it looks like we lost like 11 people because of my long tangents. Sorry. I'm an opinionated person. What can I say? Doing it old school. Yeah, so old. So months old. Um, all right, so I'm just gonna smooth some of this out now because we're getting some of that artifacting, which is happening from the triangulation. Don't need those ripples in the ears necessarily, and the head will be covered up by the hair. I definitely suggest buying the full one-time version if you can. For what? I have the full version of ZBrush. I paid for it a long time ago. I know it's free upgrades. I just haven't chosen to install the new version yet. Opinions help you make decisions. Preach on. Better than sitting never knowing what to do. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I love the free updates too. Makes it worth the wait. Yeah. In Bitcoin. It's worth its weight in Bitcoin. Hilarious. Yeah. I'm glad I have Bitcoin. I just wish I had more of it, but you know, I have some in there. And I got some Ethereum and some Dogecoin and some stocks. Definitely 2020 was the year where I started really thinking more about financials in general and just how to grow, how to try to grow some wealth. I wouldn't call myself wealthy at all, but have some dough, have some skin in the game. I've got some dough out there in crypto and quick to learn about NFTs. I got it now locked in, so I just gotta make them. Just have to make the artwork and make some kick-ass stuff, and then advertise the hell out of it. Really, that's part of it. It's like there's some great work out there, but it's not so much about how good the work is. Unfortunately, it's a weird space. But I think I figured out some of that and what might really work. And considering what I've worked on before and what people like of what I've done, I think I've devised a intelligent way of marketing some stuff that or at least producing something that I should be able to market easily and that people would like to share and talk about and laugh at and enjoy, but will be well done. It will be well done on top of being funny and cute and weird and whatever. It's actually not going to be cute, really. It's just going to be cool. But yeah, I think I've cracked the code. I think I've at least figured out something that I think will sell well, and that fits in well with what's popular in the NFT space. And I'm just fixing this eyelid because it's too receded. Anyone else love Speed? I love the movie Speed. Another great Keanu film. I loved Speed as a kid, and I still love it now, but I really enjoyed it as a teenager. That was my jam. And I think that came out like a year. It was the year of Jurassic Park, wasn't it? Yeah. So I guess I forget if I was enjoying it whenever it came out on VHS. I remember that's when I was just like, yes, so good. Too bad they made the sequel that was so terrible. Cruise Control. Ugh. It's like that movie really didn't need a sequel. I mean, they just felt like they had to make one because it did so well, I guess. But I mean, if they were going to make a sequel, they should have made a sequel with designed around Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, right? And it should not have been on a cruise ship. They were trying to do like what Die Hard did, sort of like, oh well, it's Die Hard but on a plane. Uh, it's Speed but on a boat, a really giant, slow-moving boat. Oh God, oh, what idiots greenlit that? The hell, terrible idea. Keanu was wise to not partake in it. um, Man, I wish they would have made a good sequel instead. Says every fan of any film that ever had a terrible sequel. All right, we need teeth in here. I have some good teeth. I'm just trying to remember where I put them. But I guess I could just use the ones that, because I think the standard Nick Z model, I think it has teeth. Pretty sure it does. Blah! Or wait, no, it doesn't. Or at least this version doesn't. Okay. So, delete all. Let me check on my computer. Let me find where the teeth are. Gotta do a quick search. It's in my projects folder somewhere. Or it might be on this computer. It might be on the Cintiq in front of me. Let's see. Excuse me. What's up, buddy? Sorry, he's the puppy's talking to me. Actually, I think I could use the kid from my short. Actually, I could use his teeth. So, projects. That's Guardian. What? What do you want? You getting hungry? Oh, what? No food. I'll give you food in a minute. I'll give you some snacks in a minute. You have food, actually. You already have food. Go eat your food. Go eat your food, buddy. You have food. He probably smells all the food that I just brought in from Costco, and he's just going crazy. Okay, I know where to go. All right. So we're coming close to the end here. So again, if anybody's interested in any private tutoring, one-on-one stuff, have any questions they want to hop in like a 45-minute session with me or an hour or more, whether they want to do it weekly or monthly or whatever, let me know. DM me on Instagram or email me again. So my IG, for those who may not have seen it earlier, is this. It's Daniel Lyon Arts, and email is basically the same thing. That's my email. Sorry, where are we going back here? They're saying you need to purchase either ether to even convert your art into an NFT. And yes, Speed is one of my wife and I favorite movies. Ha, nice. Um, it's actually talking to the guy in chat. Apologies. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Let's have some local currency. It's not enough though. Uh, it was the same director as director Snakes on a Plane. Stupid concept. Yeah, I've never seen Snakes on a Plane. Actually, I've never seen the film. I've heard it's ridiculous and hilarious. I need to watch it. I need to watch Snakes on a Plane at some point just to be aware. Like I think I painfully trudged through Sharknado. I think I watched that one point when I was dead tired and just was going to sleep. I think I watched it at one point a long time ago, but it's been a long time. I barely remember anything of it. So retarded, so dumb. Okay, so where's the boy? Let's do it. Date modified. Get rid of. I wish you could. Is there any way to like to stop having it display the order of this? Like, I hate date because I always want date modified. I don't need to know when it was created. I need to know when the most recent version of that file is. But I always have to do this, right? Right click, unselect date, select date modified, and then bring it over here. And it's like, ugh. Is there a way to just have this always set up like this and have it lock? I know there has to be a way to do it, but I just don't know how. It's got to be in some sort of deep settings in Windows. Annoying. It's gonna take a second to load. Sorry, this is an interesting question, right? So here's an interesting question. When you take a piece of someone else's IP and you list an affiliate link to the original and inspiration, do you think that's going to be an issue? Um, when you make a piece from someone else's IP and you list an affiliate link to the original and inspiration, I mean, is it an issue? It's only an issue if you're selling it or uh, I mean, the other thing is if you got permission, you know, if it's like a 2D, a lot of 3D artists do this, and I mean I've done it myself, but I also went what I think is a proper way to do it, which is I I'm friends. I've been friends or so acquaintances, but friends with Justin Gerard, famous illustrator, great guy. We went to college together actually for a semester, and so we met there first before I ever knew him as a professional. So we were both college students, university students. As I was by agreement, he was an artist, but I was taking some art classes on the side for fun, just to get a mental release from the hard sciences, and that wound up winning over, of course. But I remember walking in when he was doing some really beautiful acrylic or oil paintings, and I was just blown away. And I was just, dude, your work is fantastic. It was like really charming, really cute animals, but like then with such quality and great lighting, and just the way he lit the scenes, and so I just loved his work. I was a huge fan of his work then, and we became friends then. And then I found out he became like this renowned illustrator and painter years later. And I would go to this convention in Altoona, which then moved to Allentown, so it stayed in the A's, but in Pennsylvania, it was called a lexicon. It still happens, but I guess it hadn't happened last year and probably not happening this year. But it's just the collection of the world's best fantasy, science fiction illustrators, painters all over the world come there, and they bring their paintings and their prints and products, and they would just have their table set up. And so I got to talk with them there and catch up, and we became a friend, acquaintances, friends then too, and got to sort of catch up a bit more since we were both at university. And anyway, I was really just moved and just loved this piece that he did called AWOL, which is a piece that he did, absent without leave is what the acronym stands for, military term. But he called it that because he was working on a PS3 game at the time called resistance, I believe. It's like an alien, sort of like humanoid aliens are attacking Earth and all this stuff. And sorry, I'm not working as I'm talking, but let me get this out. There are the teeth. Looks so weird. Uh, so I saw this piece by him. It's called AWOL. If you go in my portfolio, I still have it because it was the first. It was actually the first complete ZBrush piece I ever did, and I still think it looks good. I'm still proud of it. So it's still in my portfolio, as well as the second or third piece I ever did, which is another one of his. So I loved his pieces. He knew I bought a print of his of it, and this was years before I knew ZBrush well. And then years later, we would see each other all the time annually at this same convention, this trade show, and then one year I said, hey, can I emailed him and I said, I'm learning ZBrush. I would love to do a 3D version of your piece completely in ZBrush and just do the background in Photoshop. Would you mind get your permission to do it? And he was like, sure, knock yourself out. I'd love to see the end result. And then he loved it, and enjoyed it. So then I asked him again if I could do another piece by him. And he was like, yeah, but maybe think about after that doing some of your own. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know. And so I did a bunch of my own stuff after that. But he let me do two of his pieces in 3D, and of course I put like his piece and my piece next to each other so you can see how they match up or look similar. And then I put his name and link at the bottom, of course, and everything to be respectful. But he was nice enough and gracious enough to to give me permission very early on. And I had another painter who I love, who I think I showed it, and I said I was going to do that as my next piece, and then I moved on to this, but I'll eventually get to it. But Pitar Mendezov, or how we say his last name. His work is incredible. He's this amazing. It's called The Legend of Steel Bashaw, and it's this like classic, fairy tale like knight saves princess kind of thing, and he's like this badass knight on this awesome white horse, and this horse is just in full gallop and has such a dynamic pose and just full stride. And the cover of the book is gorgeous, and it's this horse just running, and he's on the horse and he has the princess with them, and it's just like a classic fairy tale. But man, they made the horse just look, the whole picture just looks beautiful, but the horse is just, I love the horse. And I mean, I think horses and animals are awesome, beautiful, but this horse and the pose is just perfect. So anyway, I would love to do that in 3D, and just, I mean, it'd be incredible. But man, horses are challenging too, as everybody knows. Anyway, so that's, sorry, it's long tangent, just to say, I don't really think there's anything wrong with doing a tribute piece, or taking someone else's work and doing a version of it. But of course you have to list who that was, and it's better yet to even get permission, so that it's all as up on the up as can be, unless there's someone that you cannot reach out to, that you have no way of getting in contact with, in which case it's almost like this. It's like, it's not public domain at all, but it's also like such a public, such a well-known IP that everyone would know that you don't own it, especially if you're also listing somewhere like, oh, this is my tribute piece to blah blah blah, whatever, and you're not selling it. There really shouldn't be no problem. I mean, of course, legally, any company can say, like, we don't want anybody doing anything with our characters at all. And they can say that, and they can, if they really be assholes, they can come after you, and send you a cease and desist letter, and then send their legal department to come after you even more if they, really feel like you're infringing upon them, or putting them in a bad light, or stealing their money somehow, or you're not stealing their money, but like, you know what I mean? Like, making a product that you're selling, making money off of it. But, so many people, so many kids make art of characters they love, and there's no reason why there should be like, you know, some major issue with doing that. So anyway, long answer, sorry. Now I have the teeth. They came in different positions, as you can see. His head's up here. The teeth are giant compared to his head. So we're going to do a little move, and then I'm gonna turn on the pizza boxes, as Mr. Drust likes to call them. It's just a stack of these three little bars with check marks to mean that you're going to select all subtools to be moved at the same time, but I'm not selecting all. So you hold Control and Shift and tap that one and tap that one, and then everything else should be like that. Should be all like scan lined, kind of like a TV scan line kind of thing. So and we tap this to center it there, holding Alt, and I let go Alt, drag them up, put the camera back to where it is. turn off symmetry for a second so I get dead center. And now we want to scale down. So grab the yellow and do this. That's probably about right. Somewhere around there. And now we insert them. Give him his dentures. I never thought about that, actually. I mean, I feel like his mouth is open, but it could just be the lips are open. And teeth could actually be closed. I feel like they're slightly open, but maybe for the sake of the ease of printing this, I might make the teeth the actual, like, border to the whole mouth. And again, actually, it's like I want this general facial expression, but there's no reason to say that the teeth couldn't be clenched to some degree because no, but the jaw is open. That's right. Still, I'll have to fill it in anyway behind the teeth or whatever. But because this is going to be attached to that scene where he's triple kicking that guy at the very end, so of course the placement of certain elements in the face and the mouth could be changed. Okay, so there are his gums, as we can see. So we want to put those there. Actually, let me move it up for a second. See where his lower gums are. They're, yeah, much lower because his jaw is open. All right, so we slide these down. Have to adjust the gums clearly because one of them's like receded a bit more than the other. Maybe actually bring it scale down even a little bit more. And it feels like they're still like these are popping out. His canines actually are kind of pulling out there. So I wonder if I do a little rotation. So I'll probably have to adjust the gums a little bit to encompass the teeth a little bit better. All right, so I'm deselecting the upper teeth, and I'm just looking now at the lower. I'm going to hide the lower jaw. Oh, oops. Unselect that. Turn that off for a second. So I'm inverting selection on the lower jaw, so now I can see the lower teeth. I'm going to move those. And now it's just going to move the lower teeth because I have one selected. And actually, I think, yeah, I didn't really move the gums all that much, so this actually will be okay. I might actually, that's weird, actually seeing this. I might have to move the upper gums up a bit more so you can actually see some of the teeth. So yeah, I think clenched teeth is fine. I mean, that'll should be able to work for this, I guess. So yeah, I've just got to move these guys up a bit so I can turn on symmetry for that. Probably want to do this and want to mask everything else. Actually, let's do it that way. There we go. All right, and I should probably drop this down to lower subdivision. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but I'm smoothing it out to be a bit because it can be for this scenario since no one is really going to see the gums really. I'm just growing my mask a little bit too, so I don't like wind up moving the lips, upper lips bizarrely or anything. Oh, quick save. Sorry, I know there's some more chat coming in here, and we're reaching pretty much the end now because we're at almost 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. They're in the cup soaking, hilarious. Hi, where's a good place to get feedback on your art sculpts? Who helped you get your work to the level of pro? Myself and a few people, but I'm not being arrogant. I'm just being honest. It's you have to be critical of your own work, first of all. You know, you have to be understanding of what is see, it's not even so much about getting a specific person to give you feedback. It's more a collective under it's like collecting people's views and seeing the common thread of what they dictate as, or what they define as quality, not what they dictate. Um, so in my case, I mean, I studied a lot of fundamentals of art, of course, the basics. You have to understand. Uh, I mean, it all comes together, you know, of course, and accumulates over time. But you should need to understand what good composition is, right? You have to understand like how you frame something, how the eye is led in a certain way. We often, as Westerners, we read from left to right. So if we look at a lot of good films, you'll see a lot of the time the action is going from left to right. You have two characters talking to each other. You always have one character facing left, you have another character facing right, so you understand that it helps with the idea of placement and also communication. Man, there's a great little study on this other great film that I love, which doesn't not get enough attention. If you've never seen the movie Stay, starring Ewan McGregor, Naomi Watts, and Ryan Gosling, watch the movie Stay and watch it to the very end. There's no after credit scene, but it bleeds into the credits a little. Um, but it's more so just artistic at the very after during the credits. But man, I think it's a beautiful artistic interpretation and a very intelligent, contemplative view on how the human mind assimilates information, especially at a certain point in time. And that's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil it. It because the ending makes everything, because you'll be, it's like a mind fuck. Like it's really, you're thinking, what the hell is going on? Like this is crazy. Oh my god, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this, and then it all makes sense at the very end. And if you rewatch it, you'll see, and you, if you're aware very much, you pay attention to what you see at the end, it makes just so much more, it fills in so many more gaps, and it really just makes so much more sense. And I mean, it's, you'll figure it out at the very end, of course, but I think it's a fantastic film, a really powerful story. I am always moved by it, especially at the end, but it's also because at the very end it highly revolves around two medical professionals, and I was in their place multiple times within the ER, so it's like, yeah, really hits hard, but is just incredibly well acted. It's just it's a film puzzle. It's like a mind fuck. It's like a psychological thriller, but just artistic, just beautifully artistically done. I think Mark Forrester, I think, is the director, if I'm not mistaken. And I love that they do very unique, dreamlike transitions too. Like some people who are arts or like film snobs might almost say like, oh, that's cheap or it's cheesy. But I don't. They do it with such taste and so unique in ways that I would have loved, I would imagine doing when I was younger for a film, and transitions in footage, and they do it in such a great way that it's just, it really takes you on a roller coaster ride. You have to be in the right mood for it, for sure. You have to be ready to be moved and contemplative, introspective. But it's a powerful film, I think. Good story. If anyone's seen Stay, let me know in the chat. But definitely check out Stay. And I'm forgetting why I even got into that tangent now. What was the question? Oh, so yeah, art though. So art, sorry, art. So like, how do you get to the level that you want to be professional? So it comes to composite. The basics of art are fundamental, and you need to study all of those. So composition, that's like framing, placement of characters and objects, and leading the eye. Areas of rest, meaning you have a lot of detail here, then you have a smooth area here. You don't just have detail everywhere, and it's just too much, and it becomes like saccharine or just like ice picks or like needles in your eye. You need that right. It's like a spice, right? The other thing, details like spice. You don't want to just have it everywhere. Even the best works of art often have areas of focus, right? Like even your eyes, you don't see everything in detail. You see a very, very specific area that your eye is able to focus on in detail, and everything else is blurry. So in a certain way, you want art to have that same level of attention where, and if it's a two-dimensional image, you need to have the areas of focus have the highest contrast, have the highest detail, kind of go hand in hand, and they are the areas that the eye will go to first, usually, right? And you need to have everything else be kind of subjugated to that hierarchy visually, right? You need to be able, it's called visual communication, really, is kind of what we're talking about. Um, it's how it's understanding the language of how the eye and the mind work when they view something, like how we process an image and where our eyes go to first is critical. both in a composition, the overall piece, as well as specifically to even a creature. You don't want, again, the creature to have just detail everywhere. I mean, you need it like certain animals will have detail and scales. I mean, there's a certain level of baseline then too of like an iguana. It's covered in scales, but there's very fine scales for this area of skin that looks smooth from a distance. You get up close, you see, oh, they're all little fine little scales. But the bigger areas of detail, like, or the bigger chunks you see of the bigger scales and spikes on its head and on its neck and other areas. And so nature, God has this design element, this design language that's universal, right? And that's why you can do like the golden ratio, and you can do like the I forget what that spiral is called, but it's the same kind of idea of like everything is almost like a beautiful fractal art piece, really, when you look at the big picture of life and design and how everything falls into certain predictability and categories, and the algorithms can predict certain things. So there's all that big picture concept. But when it comes to perfecting your work and getting better at your art and becoming professional, it's all about excellence. That's the barrier to entry, is being excellent at what you do, and that comes from time and practice and looking at the masters. Now, I'm talking about like anyone in my generation, anyone that's alive even today, although there are masters alive today, of course. But I'm talking about the masters like Leonardo da Vinci, right? Michelangelo, of course, Monet. Just look at all the greats, and like it almost it really it I hate to sound like it has to be anything academic, but it does help to study like basic art history, and what it, even within that category, to focus in on just the Renaissance period and moving forward from there. But also studying like the proportions of the famous sculptures in Greece, um, studying almost any major pieces that are in the Louvre. They're there for a reason. Like they're not just there because, oh, they're just a nice piece. Like they're there because they're excellence achieved, right? That's excellence manifested, and they often hold incredible lessons in their composition and how they were made. Again, they were probably following other truths or other um, observations of reality, or of human anatomy, or of composition, or of storytelling. And they may have also be imitating other people or other artists, sculptors. But you, in studying them, it's like studying classical music. You want to be a great musician, even if you want to be a great rock star, you still should study classical music, because it's the foundation of all music, of all excellent music is classical. That's the bare like foundational line. Like that's the highest. It's foundational, yet it's also like the highest watermark, in my opinion. To be able to have mastery over multiple instruments and have them all work together in an orchestra, like that's excellence, right? That's mastery. That's the pinnacle. Um, and so, in much the same way, it's like you want to become a great artist, you want to become a great writer, you have to read good authors, you have to observe great masters of art, and learn the basic fundamentals of what makes their pieces excellent. I mean, sorry, it's a really broad question, but a broad answer, but it's a broad question. It's like, how do you become a professional? Well, it's like, and in this case specifically, if you want to talk about 3D art, it's still practice, and it's still learning the ins and outs of what are considered standards, right? What software is a standard that you must know in order to work in the industry, and what is expected of artists, in the industry. And that's a big factor. That's a big point, of being able to make great work. It's knowing what's expected of you and being able to deliver that. And that's where, again, I see some people might say like, oh, don't do other people's work, or don't imitate other people's work. Like I did it, like of my friend Justin Gerard's work. His work is excellent. I It's excellent. I responded to it, and many other people responded to it. So that means there's a level of something of excellence, and that's the thing you can tell. Like a lot of people consume the Powerpuff Girls or something. I don't think that's artistically excellent at all, really. It's functional. It's a product. It serves its purpose of being like a colorful distraction for people to enjoy as entertainment, mostly children. But I wouldn't put it. It's a totally different genre and category, But if you're talking about creating anything realistic or high end for entertainment, for film, you're going to be looking at realism a lot. Like that's going to be most of your work. If you want to do stylized characters, that's Disney, that's Pixar, that's DreamWorks, that's a whole other category. You got to look a lot of what they produce, of course. But for realism and having excellence in realistic objects, comes from both looking at great works, but more than that, even it's looking at the real world, right? Observing and accurately replicating what you're observing. And software is just the tool that lets you do that, but it can also be a barrier. It can also be a real pain in the butt, I know. And that comes then too with like mastering your software, so then you can master the work within the software, right? But it's like just knowing the software alone is not going to make you a better artist. It's going to help for sure because you've got to know the software you're using, but there's definitely something to be said for just art fundamentals, and that's where it's crucial that you know and study great artists. So, oh, I see. The teeth are off center. Interesting. Derp. My bad. Okay. Let's see here. Interesting. How'd that happen? I guess because his head's off center, right? Isn't it? Yeah. His head's off center because it's turned slightly. Okay. That's why things were looking a little weird when I was doing symmetry with the... Dang it. Let's go back. Let's go way back. Well, not that far back. Okay. Right around. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry, that was a long answer to a very big question. Sparks 700, 7007. Um, add you on IG. Cool. Sweet. Thank you. Really like the pizza boxes. What's up, peeps? Exodus, what's up, sir? Exodus, are you the same Exodus that's on Mr. H Reviews YouTube? I'm assuming you are. That's funny. That's awesome. You're using a mouse or Wacom to... I'm using a stylus, Cintiq. Did you use Maya first or 3ds Max? Neither. I used ZBrush first. Before that, Photoshop. And then ZBrush was my gateway drug into learning Maya. And I still don't like Maya. I still kind of hate Maya, but I have to know it to function in this industry. So I've learned Maya to the point of modeling and UVing, and I'm starting to learn rigging just barely. And learning UDIMs, of course, learning how to do that in Maya, and how to do some basic, grouping and parental hierarchies, so like master slave kind of stuff when it comes to parent-child relationships, how it comes to how things work and how they're associated with each other as objects. So that's that answer. Yeah, I'm using a Cintiq. I mean, yeah, I guess you guys can. I've never shown you guys this, I guess, but this is the setup. I mean, there you can see what I'm looking at right now. So that's the computer and the Cintiq right there. So there you go. That's what I'm working on right here. Meant, did you learn the hard service, low poly, and move on to ZBrush? Yeah, no, it's the other way around. ZBrush first. Mathematics within snail shell curves. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, bro, the noob question, but why do you use perspective for sculpting like this? It was earlier. It's funny. Because I know I have a good idea what millimeter lens length they used, and I have a scan of his head already from Cyberpunk. So sorry, 1 second. This music is annoying the hell out of me because it went on to another piece. Okay. So yeah, I'm using perspective because I know what focal length they're using, and I'm matching this particular angle and perspective of his face. So all that helps. So here's the scan. Oops. There's the scan, which is from the game Cyberpunk. So they scanned him and they put him in the game. So that's pretty accurate. So that helps. So that allows me to be more confident with perspective on. And then here's the my version. I already made adjustments where the nose, and that because he's doing a sneer, right? So like all this is compressed. That's bringing the nose up slightly. His mouth is open as he's like taking the bullet, like taking the brunt of all the in the story. Of course, his expression is that he's being shot from behind as all the wall is being riddled, and he's basically grinding its teeth and getting focused before he rolls out to go down the hallway, sort of down the one side of the lobby. So yeah. So I'm almost at time here. I really should go in like 5 minutes or less. So I'm just gonna move the teeth around and then I shall bounce. So yeah. All right. So I'm gonna do this and pizza boxes. And it's okay. And then center. Oops. No. I want to center on the teeth, not on the head. There we go. Center. No. The heck. Okay. So now. Curve is called the Fibonacci. Oh yeah, of course that's why. How could I forget the Fibonacci sequence? Yes, thank you. Yes, one of many things that ripple through life that show that there is design, there's order. There must be order in order for things to survive. Tom Cruise teeth. Seen can never be unseen. Yeah, yeah. They're off center. I know. His teeth are like whoop. They were like way over. I think he got clear braces. I remember because he was on the cover of like Time magazine or some major magazine. I remember back when I was going to Barnes and Noble all the time, like back in like the early 2000s, like right around the time when Minority Report released. When Minority Report released, he right before or after he fixed his teeth a lot because they were way off center and that brought him way more centered. So I just remember that as being one thing. But yeah, I remember noticing that like his teeth are way center line of his two front teeth were way off center of his nose. Hello, always nice to see Pixologic stream. Hello, Panda Ant. Um, do you think I can by any chance learn all those things you have been talking about and become an artist? I'm 35 and have a lot of free time. Hell yeah, of course you can. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you apply yourself every day and are very diligent and disciplined and find pleasure in creating some pieces, you can absolutely become a better artist, of course. Absolutely. I don't think it's ever too late. Like I felt like I was losing and I was behind when I got into ZBrush, and that was I got more serious about it when it was like 2012, 2013, and I was already in my mid 20s, I guess then. Um, so I felt like I was getting in late because I wasn't learning it from when I was 18, 19, 20. But ZBrush was only invented my last year in college, so that was 2002. So it was only invented then, and it really didn't become really mainstream until a little bit before I got involved with it. So I wasn't that far behind, and now I feel like I'm kind of in the same zone as a lot of other artists. Um, and I've been in that same zone for a while. So, it's never too late. Especially it's never too late to do something you really love or that you want to do. Do it. Start. Like it's just not getting you're not getting younger. None of us are. Or it's all a one-way ticket. All of us are heading in the same direction. Um, so I think life is too short to not do what you love, no matter what it is, as long as it's not hurting anybody. Um, and if it makes the world a better place, even more incentive to do it and do it well, even if it takes you longer or you feel like it's taking you long. Don't worry about no one else's schedule is yours. Like even the whole 4 year plan for college, the 4 year plan's like ideal, but I mean ideal to some people. But I mean, at this point, I'm almost like, don't go to college if you don't really know what you need to want to do, and it doesn't feel like it's your mission in life, don't go to college. Um, there's so many better alternatives, or now more than ever, it's like so much is free on the internet. And I've been saying this for years, and I'm so glad that Elon Musk has been saying the same thing for a long time. Like, he won't respect someone more or hire them just because they went to a certain school. It doesn't matter if they went to Harvard or whatever. It's like, what can you do? A lot of times people who've lived in the real world and worked and had like real experiences first and foremost, will be more valuable than people who have people who've graduated from college but have no real world experience. They're more inexperienced than people who didn't go to college, who've been working in their same field for years. This makes sense. It's logical, but so much of the hiring process has been based on whether you have X degree or X whatever behind or after your name, but that really doesn't prove jack. Doesn't really help. Doesn't prove that you're going to be an excellent whatever in your field. So much of that comes down to just determination and interest and personal investment. So yeah, just do what you want. Okay, it's 4:45. I gotta really stop here now because Spicer's probably about to start. Certainly can start at 0:51 now. Loads of tutorial material. Yeah, there's so much out there. Absolutely, so much for free. But like I said, if anyone wants some personalized private lessons, tutors, whatever, mentorship, I'd be more than happy. Just send me a direct message on Instagram. Let's see, last couple things here. Depends how many hours you put into it. Yep. Previous experience in field summary. Yeah, totally just doable. Yep. You're welcome. Watching Michael Pavlovich tutorials right now. Yeah, his stuff is awesome. Michael Pavlovich is the man. He's super helpful in ZBrush. Fortunately, I don't have any experience. Well, you can get experience. You can gain experience. If you drew or sculpt in real life, it would be much easier. It helps for sure. Drawing or sculpting in real life definitely helps for sure. Had the chance to chat with Richard Taylor a few years ago. I love Richard Taylor, and they hire on tenacity above everything else. Technique can be taught. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, dude, I met Richard Taylor actually right around the time when he was talking right before or after he was talking with Elijah Wood, who came to San Diego Comic-Con. And I took a pic. I couldn't help myself. I'm like, it's Elijah Wood, dude. It's Frodo. So I was like, click. I had to take a picture of them. It's great. But yeah, Richard Taylor's great. He's a super nice guy. I like him a lot. Is there another stream coming up? Yes, there is. So I should go. Unfortunately, we didn't really get too far on this thing today, but face is pretty much done. It's just the teeth now that are being put in there. So, yeah. So I've got to situate the gums correctly because I feel like everything else is right here. But yeah, the gums I think need to come up more, and teeth need to come up more. But yeah, probably do that off stream here and then just stop. But anyway, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in and hanging out and all your questions. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. I had a good time. So yeah, again, if anyone has any other questions or would like to ask for some private lessons, I assure you they aren't crazy expensive. It's pretty fair pricing. But feel free to email me. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, please do. You can find me here on Instagram. Twitter is the same thing. Pretty much anywhere you want to find me. I'm on Twitch as well under that. And I'll be doing about the same kind of schedule for April, it looks like. So the month of April, I'll be starting, I think, so what are we at? We're on Tuesday today. So I'll either be on next week Tuesday, or this coming Sunday. I forget how it'll work out. One of the two. And I'll probably try to do a stream or two now that I'm between gigs and I really kind of need some breathing room. I'll probably just do some more of my personal projects, and I will announce it on Instagram, and it'll be via my Twitch channel. So probably want to jump on Twitch as well. So yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Take care. Be well.